Hi, I'm Hannah Allshouse, and I'm going to talk about traumatic brain injury and what it is. The definition of traumatic brain injury, or TBI for short, is defined as an altercation of brain function or other evidence of brain pathology caused by an external force. Characteristics of TBI. There's mild and mild to severe. Mild is headaches, dizziness, memory loss, disorientation, nausea, and vomiting. Moderate to severe is same as mild and also seizures, convulsions, slurred speech, persistent loss of consciousness, numbness in the fingers and in the toes, poor conditions, dilated pupils, strange behavior, memory problems, trouble concentrating, and lessened attention span and sleep and mood induced. TBI in the classroom. Problems with logic, problem solving, and reasoning. They may respond slower and not be able to remember things, have inappropriate social behaviors, emotional responses are unpredictable, not being able to regulate their emotions. Their emotions may not connect with actually how they're feeling, in trouble with attention and impulsivity, speech, and language. Diagnosis for TBI. So medically, you can get a CAT scan and they'll be able to see. Psychologically, personality and mood changes, also with social changes in the classroom. If the event happened that could have caused the TBI, you would see that they used to perform better, loss of previous skills, personality changes, and memory loss.
Effects on family. Traumatic brain injury has a major effect on family members as well as the person who is diagnosed. TBI can cause personality and behavior changes, which can put a toll on parents and other family members. The diagnosis of TBI can cause a family member to go through the 5 stages of grief. Behavior and personality changes. TBI is known to cause an array of behavior and personality changes, and some of these changes include difficulty with social skills, inability to empathize with others, inability to control emotions, tendency to be self-centered, extreme mood swings, increases in irritability and frustration, anger problems, inappropriate and aggressive behaviors, and depression. The 5 stages of grief. The diagnosis of a traumatic brain injury can cause family members to go through the 5 stages of grief. These 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. In the first stage, denial, family members may believe that the diagnosis of the traumatic brain injury is wrong and that their loved one will one day regain full cognitive function. In the second stage, anger, family members may be angry or upset about the diagnosis, and this may cause them to push others away from them. In the third stage, bargaining, family members may try to bargain with a higher power to reverse what caused the traumatic brain injury. In the fourth stage, depression, family may blame themselves for what caused this, and they'll be extremely sad. And in the fifth stage, acceptance, the family will accept that they cannot change what caused the traumatic brain injury and that it does not define who their loved one is now and what their quality of life will be.
Traumatic brain injury is a major public health issue. Laws are necessary to protect individuals with traumatic brain injury and to protect their families as well. In 2009, the Allston law was passed. It is also referred to as the Return to Play law. There are 3 key elements. The first is to educate parents and athletes. The second is for immediate removal from play after the suspected concussion. And the third is medical clearance before returning to play. This law is called the Allston law because it is named after a student who was actually allowed to return back to his football game after suffering from a traumatic brain injury. The coaches allowed him to return only 15 minutes after suffering this injury. This caused the student to have lifelong, lasting effects from this injury. It is always important to assess children and make sure that they are safe and okay after suffering a brain injury. More law information regarding traumatic brain injury include that each state has its own legislation regarding traumatic brain injuries, and they also have their own protocols as well. Over time, states have passed legislation to change and improve specific requirements to help ensure the safety of children. State laws have expanded the coverage of traumatic brain injury laws, they have tightened existing requirements, and they have made efforts to prevent concussions or traumatic brain injuries from occurring to begin with. The Americans with Disabilities Act, otherwise known as the ADA, was developed to secure equal rights for all people with special needs. It also helps ensure that all buildings are safe, such as including ramps or easily accessible bathrooms. Title II and Title III of the ADA protects people with disabilities from discrimination by state and local governments. Also, the ADA entitles individuals the same right to use and enjoy public transportation. Why are traumatic brain injury laws important? Well, children's brains are still developing, so they are at a higher risk for developing brain injuries. They also take part in more activities that would be more likely for brain injuries to occur. If TBI is not treated properly when the incident occurs, it can cause significant lifelong lasting effects. Also, traumatic brain injury has the ability to alter young children's neurodevelopment, and it has been highly associated with measurable cognitive impairment. These factors are all highly important because it impacts the rest of children's lives.
Curriculum research-based practice for students with traumatic brain injury. Some research-based classroom modification types include environmental. This can be changing around the seating in the classroom for students with TBI who struggle with walking or are confined to a wheelchair. Transitional modifications, and that can include making transitions longer as well as having warnings before transitions to make it easier for students with TBI. Changing up the method of instruction, making it very, very explicit for students with TBI as they can suffer from memory deficiency. So it's just a key way to helping them in the classroom. Behavioral modifications, we talk about this in later slides, but allowing students to have checklists of their behavior so that they can monitor their behavior is very important in the classroom, and including assistive technology in the classroom. So in the last slide, we talked about a little bit about the modifications you can make in the classroom when you do have a student with TBI. However, no two students with TBI are the same, so it's important to base what each student specifically needs and go from there. Some examples of the accommodations based on specific needs of the individual student include if the student have memory deficits, including posted directions and monitoring planner. If the student has visual spatial deficits, including large print materials in classroom, and allowing a distraction-free work area is very important for these students. And for students with gross motor difficulties, allowing adaptive physical education and restroom adaptations is key. So you may be wondering how you would know what modifications to use for the students with TBI in your classroom. But there are actually assessments that you can give students with TBI to determine the type of modifications that would best suit them. So there are different assessments you can give students with TBI to determine this. That can include observation, which includes narrative recording and antecedent behavior consequence. Those are just a couple. There's many more observation types that you can use in the classroom. Interviews with students, teachers, and parents, so that you can best kind of gauge what modifications will work best for them that maybe teachers and parents have used. Checklists and rating skills, teachers fill out for student behavior, just kind of keeping track of the student behavior in a classroom. And standardized testing, making accommodations for that, such as using small groups or one-on-one, depending on the student. So students with TBI can struggle with self-determination skills as well as problem-solving skills. So including strategies to build self-determination skills in the classroom is very important for these students. This can include allowing students to self-monitor their behavior, which is giving students a simple checklist or rating skill that assesses their behavior and choices in the classroom. And then including positive reinforcement for positive choices. This can help a student with TBI develop better decision-making skills as they make the connection that good decisions lead to positive outcomes, which they tend to struggle with. So including these is very important. So going back to the previous slide, this is just an example of self-monitoring, students self-monitoring their behavior. This is a student checklist example that you can give students with TBI. Although it's kind of hard to see, it's basically, it has different questions or prompts, like I did not hit my hit or throw items today, and they can say yes or no for different times of the day or throughout the day in random intervals.